You gave me time when no one gave me time of day. You looked deep inside while the rest of the world looked away. You smiled at me when there were just frowns everywhere. You gave me love when nobody gave me a prayer.
And here we are again. Good to see you on Lost on the Way Home. Thank you for coming to hear another testimony. You know, the Lord is ever-present help. That's what He is. He is an ever-present help. And no matter what it is, whether it's something small or something big, whatever circumstance it is, He makes a way when there is no way. And a lot of times we don't pay attention so much to the little things because we seem to want to handle that. But sometimes we get into situations where they're so big and we get into a place where we feel like there's no way out no matter what because the situation is so overwhelming, there's no way out. That's not true. It's just, that's a lie. The Lord says that He makes a way when there is no way. And you can take that to the bank. I've been in situations where the Lord has rescued me out of countless things that have really would have hurt me and possibly would have killed me. And yet, He has always been so faithful. And today I want you to meet Nick Palumbo. Hi, Nick. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, so good to see you. Thank you for coming. You're from our church, Yorktown Assembly of God, and you have an awesome testimony how the Lord rescued you from your situation. And I want the viewers to hear it because, as we have said a lot of times on the show, people look for miracles. They consider miracles when, say, an arm grows out or somebody gets healed from cancer. And those are wonderful miracles. But the miracle of the heart, the transformation that takes place inside the heart, is the greatest miracle that there is. And we have people in our community all over the place with this wonderful miracle of the heart. And how that, as we want to talk about how that happened to you. And but I know that you got yourself mixed up in some really wild stuff.
Yeah.
So how did you start?
Well, I can go back, and we would need 4 hours for the show.
Yeah, I know.
So I'll give you the consolidated version. Started when I was in college. I was dating at the time my wife, not my current wife. It was a short stint. Mm-hmm. Shortly after college, she actually proposed to me, believe it or not.
Oh, my.
And very wealthy family, beautiful girl. And it was about a month before our wedding, she cheated on me. Mm. She went away with a guy who I happen to know. We were all, socialized together. And I remember 2 weeks before the wedding, she needed knee surgery, arthroscopic surgery, and we were at a local hospital. And in those days, I was a lot younger and obviously a lot bigger. And this beautiful bouquet of flowers comes into the hospital from someone. And it was about half the size of this table. And my mom and my aunt were there visiting with her at the hospital. So I asked her a question. I said, "Who are these flowers from?" She said, "I have no idea." So I took the card that was on the flowers and I called the florist. And I said, "We just received a beautiful bouquet of flowers, but we don't know who they're from." And they had told me who they were from. And the particular person who sent the flowers, she was working with at the time. So the place where they worked was about a half a mile from the hospital. And I told my mom that I need to go move my car because I was in the emergency loading zone. But I got in the car and I went to the place where they worked. Mm-hmm. And I confronted this person and I told them that she had told me everything, which was a lie. And
wow, so that was pretty slick.
That was pretty slick, but that was my personality.
And you didn't really know the Lord at this point.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. I was brought up, Catholic school, didn't know what it meant, didn't know what the rituals meant, went through it, but had no idea, had no relationship. No relationship whatsoever. And long story short, I proceeded to hurt this person really bad.
Oh, my.
Where it got to the point where I was going to get arrested. I went back into the hospital. My hands were full of blood. My mother said, "What happened to you?" And I said, "Well, the car had a flat tire. Had to jack the car, the whole bit. The thing fell on my." She believed it. That was that. And when she got out of the hospital, I confronted her with the situation. And she said, I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? Now, no one in my family has ever been divorced. Pride got in the way. And I said, okay, I forgive you. And ended up marrying her anyway.
Oh, my.
So life goes on, and she came down with a condition known as anorexia nervosa at the same local hospital. And I remember she was in there for an extended period of time, and we didn't have any, we had health insurance, but didn't cover psychiatric. And my father-in-law at the time was a multimillionaire back in those days. I'm talking early 80s. And I approached him. I said, Dad, I received this hospital bill. I remember I was making $14,000 a year in 1982.
So that was pretty good, though,
Yeah.
that even though he was a multimillionaire, he was making you work.
Well, I wasn't working for him. I was working in which he wanted me to work for him, but I wanted to do it on my own.
You wanted to do it on your own.
Yeah.
Okay. And he
So-
let you, though. So
Yeah, but he said to me, your wife, not mine, your problem, not mine.
Oh.
So I ended up getting a $27,000 hospital bill in 1983, which was a lot of money for me back then, considering I was only
That's a lot
making
of money.
$14,000.
Yeah.
And I remember being on welfare in 1984 online in Mount Kisco, New York, to get help. And while she was in the hospital, I remember Christmas Eve, my mother, Italian family, Christmas Eve is a big dinner,
Yes,
all the fish and all that.
The fish, yeah.
My mother said, why don't you come over for dinner at least tonight? I said, no, I'm gonna spend it at the hospital with my wife. I walk in the hospital, and she was with another guy sitting on a bed. And she says, what are you doing here? I said, what do you mean? She said, I thought you were going to your mother's. I said, no, I want to celebrate Christmas Eve with you. She said, you don't need to be here. Now, pride again set in. I was too embarrassed to go to my mother's house. And I remember staying on a park bench. There was snow coming down, just watching people walk by. I didn't go home.
Wait, you walked in and he was sitting and
she threw me out of the hospital.
And she threw you, and you left?
I had to because she called the doctor, and the doctor says, you can't be here. I left.
My,
Yeah.
out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. There were things that were happening that I didn't know about, that she would talk to the doctor about. So I remember starting to drink a lot by myself. I remember at one point doing drugs.
And how old were you at this point?
23 years old.
23, and
Yeah.
all of this is happening.
All this is happening to me. So, didn't know the Lord at all back then. Would drink just to ease the pain, do drugs just to ease the pain. Never got truly addicted to it, but I saw the path that I was heading down. I remember my mother said to me, so how was Christmas Eve? I said, oh, it was great. I brought in food, I had, again, pride set in. So shortly thereafter, after she got out of the hospital, we sat down. It was her parents, myself, the doctor, and her. And he said, I want you to tell them what you told me. She said, well, I want to go live with my parents. I said, okay, great, after all the sacrifices that I was making. At that point, I didn't trust women at all.
Oh, my.
I just talk about male chauvinist. I was the typical male chauvinist, did not trust. Not only women, didn't trust people
You
at
were
all.
angry. You were bitter. I
Yeah.
mean, what else?
I almost got arrested for felony charges for what I did and still forgave her, and then she was basically kicking me out. So I remember living in the basement of this home in South Salem, New York, by myself. Had too much pride to call my friends, call people that cared about me, because she made me turn away from them, right? So in the Catholic Church, they got it annulled like it never happened. So I got it annulled.
They do that. I
So
know.
that lasted about a year. And for those 3 years, by the time I met my current wife of 28 years, I was just a bad person. I wouldn't treat women the way they deserve to be treated. I would, get into fights all the time. I would go to bars. My outlet was going to bars, hanging out with my friends, and getting drunk.
You see, now, the thing is, you've been brought up in the Catholic Church. And that's the whole point, is when you go to church, you're supposed to be learning how to handle disappointment when it comes into your life and handle it correctly. So you created these mindsets because of a lack of understanding and a lack of knowledge on your part, and that's how you became angry.
Yeah.
You were handling it the only way that
Yeah.
you knew how.
Yeah, one of the things I always talk about is these paralyzing paradigms that we all have, a set of belief systems. And we grew up in the ghetto, basically, at early childhood. So although I was going to church, that was once a week, on Sundays. But 5 days a week, 6 days a week, you were on the street. You were fighting. You were looking at drug dealers. You had a lot of anger in you. You saw that was the way life was supposed to be. I never saw my dad because he worked 3 jobs just to try to get us out of the ghetto. So it wasn't like what you think. I had great parents, good upbringing. I knew values. I had good morals, what I thought. But then life just gets in the way.
Right, and then you learned a lot from the streets too.
I learned a lot from the streets, and good and bad. So finally, I had a couple that wanted to introduce me to this girl. I said, I don't want to meet anybody. Just go out one date. I said, no, I don't want to do that. And they also told her the same thing. So we said, why don't you have a party? I'll meet her at the party. So that's my wife, Linda. Met her at the party and was very cautious at first. But we started dating in 1986. 1989, we get married. 2 weeks before the wedding, I'm sorry, not even 2 weeks, the Tuesday before the wedding, where the wedding was on Saturday, her father passes away on that Tuesday.
Oh.
So all these challenges came across me my whole life. And we ended up getting married anyway. In 1993, she gets pregnant, textbook pregnancy. So in 1993, we're at the hospital. She goes into labor. We're at this hospital in Lower Westchester and goes into labor. She's pushing for 4 hours. And the baby comes out. The cord gets caught. He dies in my arms.
Oh.
Now, being an Italian...
I didn't realize that had happened.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Being an Italian macho man, I had to be strong for everyone else. But I was hurting deep inside. I didn't understand why that was happening. And I needed some alone time after I calmed my wife down, my mother, and everybody else that was there. I went into this room, and I don't know if it was a priest, but he had a collar. Could have been any denomination, I don't know. And I was used to calling him Father. Now I know the truth, but I called him Father. I said, Father, where's my son? And he said, well, unfortunately, he wasn't baptized, so he's not in heaven.
But that's a lie.
Of course it's a lie. I know that now. But it felt like my heart was torn out of me, and I was just searching. I didn't know what to do. We actually buried him. I'm a big Yankee fan, so I had a little Yankee bib that I buried in the little coffin with him. And my wife couldn't get pregnant for 3 years. That's why the story you shared with me before hit home. She couldn't get pregnant for 3 years. And finally she got pregnant in 1995. And I remember it was the eve of Thanksgiving. We were having 25 people over the house, and she begins to bleed. At that time, I was searching. I was going to other non-denominational churches. I was just searching. I was reading everything I can. But I was a backsliding Christian from 1994. Okay? Not until a revelation happened, which I'll get into. And she was bleeding. We were having people on Thanksgiving. She's cooking. She calls the doctor. He said, unfortunately, you're miscarrying. And it's eve of Thanksgiving. We have to do, what's it called?
DNC.
DNC.
Yeah.
On Friday, so we had to have company over the house. Some of them knew we were pregnant, and it was hard. So we're on our way that Friday. We survived Thanksgiving, on our way to the hospital Friday to do the DNC. And my wife says to me, do you believe in miracles? I said, how could I believe in miracles? I don't even believe in God. She says, you should never lose hope. Hope sees the invisible and touches the impossible. I said, okay, whatever. I'm holding her hand in the car as I'm driving. We go to the hospital. I'll never forget this day. They're doing the sonogram, the ultrasound, and she's laying on the bed there, and this doctor calls a nurse, Mary. Mary, get in here right away. So I'm thinking as a young man, she probably has a tumor,
There's
cancer.
something wrong, because you're so used to things,
I'm so
right?
used to negativity. And doctor turns the screen around. He said, son, do you believe in miracles? I said, what do you mean? He said, you were having twins. You lost one. This is a perfectly healthy baby. It's my son, Joseph, today, who just turned 21. So things started to change a little bit, but I wasn't sure who the Lord was yet. Didn't know. Kind of saw a little bit, but didn't know. My career started taking off. I was doing really well financially. Thought it was all me. Pride again.
Pride.
Did it on my own. Came from nothing. making now in those days, back in, making well into almost 7 figures,
Wow.
as a young man. So I had
That's
pride.
a lot of money.
Did it all myself.
Did it all myself. I picked up my own bootstraps, and I made this life for myself. And the Bible warns about that.
Little did I know. So life is going on. It's pretty good. My youngest brother, was going to take over my business, was voted in high school most likely to succeed, best looking and funniest. Tragically, he lived in Florida, had 3 kids. He was divorced, had full custody of the kids. Tragically, he became septic. Something burst and poison set in the blood. He goes into a coma. At his bedside, I'm crying, and I said to him, I will take care of those kids. Don't worry about it, I will take care. He passes away tragically. Not realizing that the elephant was on my shoulder. I was always taking care of everybody, but I didn't know how to take care of myself. Again,
that happens so much, Nick. So many people, they find their value in that, and they don't realize it's putting so much on their shoulders. Jesus even says in the Word to cast your care, and when you're ignorant to the Word, my people perish for a lack of knowledge.
Exactly. So life is going on. It's pretty good financially, but now this is going back 2001, 2002. I was taking care of everybody, and I thought that it was all about money. The more money I make, the happier everyone else will be, but I wasn't happy. Something was missing. Had my health. I had great marriage, wonderful kids. My daughter, I have a 15-year-old daughter. Things were going pretty good. Big house, everything I thought I wanted.
Right.
But something was missing. I didn't know what it was. And one of our brothers from church, who I hired back in 1991, can I mention names?
Sure, if you'd like, sure.
Ralph Sessa.
Oh, yes, Ralph.
Said to me, I need to get away. Why don't we go away, play some golf? I have a home in Florida. I said, all right, let's just you and I go play some golf. We'll talk. And he's been trying to get me to go to church and to go to either Yorktown Assembly or the church that he was going to at the time. I said, yeah, Ralph, I'll go. I don't have time. Ain't nobody got time for that. Nobody has time. So we sat down. We're on the beach. I'll never forget this day. And he said to me, just come one time. And it was something he said that hit me, and I don't know, I can't describe what it was, but it was a song he made me hear called Redeemer, okay? And all of a sudden, tears started coming out of my eyes. And I didn't know why, because I'm macho, tough Nick, can take it,
You brought up that way.
Right. From the street. And I said, all right, I'll go. So I agreed to go, and we went to men's ministry at Yorktown Assembly. And the first day, I was like, oh, who are these guys? Everybody's got problems here, That's what I thought. Everybody's got problems. And something came over me, like a bolt of lightning came to and through me, like nothing I've ever felt before. And I said, I want to know more about this. I need to know more. And I became addicted. And I would go, and I would start reading the Bible. And as I'm reading it, I would just read it, but I wouldn't understand it. Not until someone said to me, read it with spiritual eyes and ears. And don't just read it the way you're reading a novel. And I just started to get entrenched. And then I began to pray. And the devotionals that we get, I would read them to my kids, and my wife, we would read them together at night. And I just started, when you do things with repetition and impact, things begin to change.
Yes.
And then everything that I needed to find out, I go to the blueprint. I go to the Bible. Gives you the answers to everything.
Everything.
And 10 years ago, I wrote a book about life coaching, but the missing piece to the book, and we've transformed a lot of lives, but the missing piece to the book was the spiritual realm. And everything, you talked about transformation before, the last letter in transformation is N for the new you.
For the new you.
So one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible is Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the ways of this world, but transform by the renewing of your mind.
Because then you can test and approve what God's perfect and pleasing will is for your life.
Exactly.
You need to know that.
Exactly. So all of a sudden, I started to realize that I have a true purpose in life. My purpose wasn't to make a lot of money, to make everyone else happy. My purpose changed. It was different. I know why God created me. And I literally recite my purpose every morning when I wake up. It's in my subconscious mind, so I know why I exist. I know why I live. I know why I came here today. I know why I'm going to where I'm going today. It's not for me or for it's for Him.
It's for Him. It's His purposes.
It's for all His purpose, exactly.
What was, your wife had become a Christian before you, or she was always a Christian, or how did she come after you? Or
it's a challenge in my household. She's a Christian. She reads the Bible. She prays every day. But her whole family, we talk about paradigms. Her sister's a Catholic school teacher. Her other sister's a Eucharistic minister. Her mother went to church not 1 day a week, 5 days a week. So she's entrenched in the traditions of the Catholic Church. But every once in a while, so I still, to appease my family, I'll still go, on Saturday nights because my daughter sings in the choir. And then once in a while, my wife comes at Yorktown Assembly. But I go there just to go through the motions. I don't get it. But all of a sudden, when I go and get fed, and I don't go there, feed me, feed me, feed me. I go there to just feel the presence of the Lord,
Well, the thing, I was in the Catholic Church too, and I actually had an encounter with Jesus, like a Damascus moment in the Catholic Church. And when I woke up, just a long story short, when I woke up and realized that Jesus is real, I had an insatiable desire to read the Word. And as I was reading the Word and understanding it, because now the Holy Spirit was in me, and I'm in the Catholic Church, I'm understanding what the Bible's saying. And I said, but we're not doing this. So it was so apparent that I went to the Monsignor. And he said, oh, no, dear. He said, we don't go by the Bible. We go by the Catechism. And so that so disturbed me. And I tried to hang on. And I stayed in the Catholic Church for 3 years. And I couldn't stay anymore because I said, I need more. There isn't enough of Jesus here. And so I left and, of course, went to Yorktown. But just to stop there for a moment, because so many people don't understand. I just heard the Pope say last year, I watched him say it. I watched him say it, that Jesus was not divine. He was just a man. And it's so sad because the Catholic people, there are lots of people in the Catholic Church who love the Lord, but they're not learning about having a personal relationship with Him, and as a result, they're being led astray. Those people won't go in the rapture. They'll be stuck here with the false prophet and the Antichrist. And of course, I know much more about that because I teach an end times class, and I could fill you up right now, but we don't have much time left. And so you just have to continue to be that light.
Pastor says it best, religion is man's search for God.
Yes.
We're all about a relationship with God.
Right.
And that's so true. When you have that relationship, you feel His presence all around you. Fear doesn't exist in your world because you understand it. You understand your purpose. You understand. So fear, I always say, is false evidence appearing real.
Yes.
Yes. And that's only in our minds and in our upbringing and how we were brought up and all those paralyzing paradigms that we have from early childhood. But they don't exist. They're only in our mind.
It's only in your mind. Exactly. Yeah. And it's, the only truth that there really is the Word. The Word upholds all. He holds everything up by His Word. And we don't realize how much we need that to live a life, to be an overcomer. We're called overcomers. We're more than conquerors. And we can handle any situation that comes our way. No matter what it is, we can handle it and we can overcome that.
Absolutely.
And how sad it is that people don't use it because they think a lot of times, I can handle this on my own. I don't really need that. I'm good with God because I go to church once a week.
Right.
I'm in.
And you hit it right on the money, how people think and what they think. They use their common senses to make decisions. But in the spiritual realm, you don't want to be common, right? In Proverbs 23:7, it says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he.
So is he.
So you have to train the mind to think that way, and the way to train the mind is to be in the Word.
Right. You train your mind to the truth.
To the truth.
He is the only way, the truth, and the life. And the Word is who He is.
Exactly.
And you can't, and you don't really understand that until you have that change of heart, that miraculous change that takes place in your heart. And unfortunately, there's so many churches that don't teach that. Because do you know, when I had my experience in the Catholic Church, nobody could tell me what happened to me. Nobody could explain it to me. And they all said that really, a few of them called me a nut. I was a nut.
Right.
You're a fanatic.
Right.
You know, that's not the way it is. But I'm like, but this happened to me.
Right.
And they could not explain it.
Yeah.
So it's so sad how people, you know, people don't realize, if you ask a person, do you think you're a good person? You ask anybody, a Catholic person, or pretty much anybody, and they say, yes, I'm a good person. And I ask them, but by whose standards are you good?
Right.
Are you good by your standard? And most people will say, yes, my standard of good. And I always say to them, but God won't judge you on your standard of good. He's going to judge you on His standard of good. And if He judges you on His standard of good, no man measures up to that.
Enough, right?
Right? No man is good. All have fallen short for the glory of God. So the only way that we can understand this is that we ask Jesus to come into our heart.
Exactly.
As that happened to you.
Exactly.
And you actually had that encounter where the Holy Spirit physically came into you.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And then it sheds light. Right?
Absolutely.
And you're able to, all of a sudden, it's like you understand.
Yeah.
It's a thing that happens to you.
Yeah, I had a revelation a while ago when, remember, Moses went up to 10 Commandments in the burning bush, and he said, go to Pharaoh and tell him to free my people, and said, who am I to go? And who should I said sent me? And he said, say, I am. Tell him, I am sent me. He lives in you. You have the power of God because He's with you all the time. So anytime you attach anything after I am, you become it. You know.
Wow, that's
yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
But you know, that's really good, because if we have so much authority on this planet, and we don't realize what we say we can have.
Absolutely.
Even if it's negative.
Absolutely.
And see, this is what people don't understand. This is the Word teaches you this stuff. If you don't know it, you can even send your kids to hell because you don't know this stuff.
Absolutely.
And the things that you say, I've been in a situation where I've told people, don't stop saying that, don't say it, don't say it. They keep saying it, and sure enough, it happens. See, I told you it was going to happen. I said, because you kept saying it.
You kept saying it. You attract it.
You attract it.
Absolutely.
You attract it to you. People do not understand that we're made in God's image. And He's given us the authority here. And if we don't take that seriously, we perish.
Right.
And we not only do we perish on earth, but we perish in the next life.
Right.
So, listen, you know, we just have a couple of minutes left, and I would love to talk to you more and more about this. This is so interesting. But could you ever see yourself in serving any other way?
No. As a matter of fact, I was talking to my good friend Charlie Nicosia, and he's in men's ministry. And
we had him on the show with his wife. They're awesome.
He's my accountability partner, and I give him some advice in the business realm, and some real life practicality. I put a different twist on things, and he's my spiritual advisor. Charlie, how should I look at this? How should I look at that? And he said, well, when are you going to retire? I said, I don't know. Maybe when I'm 60. I'm 56 now. He goes, I could use some help, in ministry. I said, well, give me something to think about, because I do a lot of coaching to begin with. I can apply what I've learned in coaching in ministry in real life biblical principles.
And let me tell you something, we're running out of time here, but you are going to do amazing things for the kingdom of God. I know it. You haven't even begun yet.
Well, I hope so.
I know so. Look, I thank you so much, Nick, for coming on
My
the show.
pleasure.
I would love to have you back. Maybe
My
bring
pleasure.
your wife back. That would be
Would love
wonderful.
that.
Would love it.
Love that.
So listen, folks, Jesus is the only way, the truth, and the life. Whatever it is that you need, He is. He is the great I am. I am your safety. I am your refuge. I am your protection. He is whatever it is you need. Listen, watch us on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us today. God bless you, and ask Jesus to come into your heart.
Nobody gave me a prayer. That's why I call you Savior. That's why